Hey everybody, this is Matthew Kaplowitz, and welcome to another special mini-sode of Trek Untold. And I've been counting my ridges, waiting for this day to come. And thanks to her cameo in Lower Decks, we get to finally make it happen. Mary Chieffo, welcome to Trek Untold. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing pretty well. I'm trying to live in the Star Trek ideals in this
Aren't
moment.
we all? It's been a rough 24 hours, let's put it that way. For folks who don't know what we're talking about, you can Google the date if you watch this in the future. But
But yeah, I am very happy to be here and be speaking to what Trek's all about.
awesome. Well, you just made a surprise appearance in the latest episodes of Lower Decks from season five, A Farewell to Farms. And it was great seeing you pop up again. And I'd like to just ask here from the beginning, how did it feel to be back in the saddle as a Klingon?
Oh, it was so much fun, and it was really, a delight because it was a Klingon that was different from L'Rell, different era, different voice. I got to kind of figure out what this new Lady Klingon's energy was, and of course, getting to see the animation was inspiring. And I'm just a fan of Lower Decks, so just all around a grand old time. I just loved it.
And how did this cameo come together? Did the folks over at Lower Decks reach out to you? Were you talking to them for a while? What's the story?
Yeah, I've always been very like friendly and again a fan of the show, and Mike and Brad have just we've always been friendly. And but this was truly, I can't even remember exactly the timeline, but yeah, they reached out and said, "Hey, we have this Lady Klingon. We were thinking of who would make a great Lady Klingon voice. We think it would be you." And I said, "Well, thanks." And yeah, so I felt very thrilled that, I that they thought of me, and that it was, it'd be so much fun to bring back L'Rell as I've been able to do on Star Trek Online, but to be able to create a new energy was really awesome. And then yeah, once I knew I was officially cast, I got this, really fun scene, and then got to play with Brad in the booth, and just really got to have fun. Like it was just so cool to have a session where we just got to be goofy and play with what's this sultry energy here, and how is this aggressive, and making all the different grunt sounds. Like it was just really, really, really great.
And what is the difference for you as a performer between these two Klingons?
Mm. I think that L'Rell is a lot more stoic than Clara. I think that, L'Rell has, I think, probably had a bit of a rougher time overall. And luckily, maybe, Clara, timeline wise, benefits from the fact that L'Rell paved the way for the Klingons. I mean, a lot has transpired in the timeline since then. Um, yeah, I really found that in certain ways, I think that L'Rell is deeply, deeply connected to who I am at my core. That she's so distant from me in voice and shape and everything, that I think I allow a certain vulnerability to come out. But with Kalara, it was like she was a little bit closer to my voice, a little bit goofier. So I got to lend that side of myself to her, which was also really a great experience.
I mean, she's a lot of fun for the time she's on screen here. And forgive me for not knowing this, but have you done a lot of VO work beforehand?
Not a lot. I would love
Okay.
to. I did, I did get to do L'Rell specifically, and then I do, dialects, voice, all that sort of stuff has always been a sweet spot for me. Was what I really gravitated towards in school, and I love doing that. But yes, no, I have not done a fair amount. Thanks to Trek, I've been able to exercise that muscle a bit, and I hope to get to do more, whether it be in Trek or somewhere else.
And I've spoken to a lot of folks in this podcast who do VO and they've done live action performing and the combination of the two things. And all of them say they kind of prefer being in the hot seat doing the recordings that way, but also it's a harder job because you don't really have people reacting to you as much. I mean, how did you find it for you?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think I often feel it's like every different muscle you can stress, whether yeah, be live with prosthetics on film, or recording in the booth, or live on stage. There are different aspects of the actor muscle that you get to stretch. And what I really enjoy in recording is there's a certain level of playfulness that you can have um in the booth, that you can kind of be like, wait, let me just try that line one more time. Like you said, you don't get to have as much of a
Much of a connection,
response,
really.
yeah, connection to the other person. But like I got to work Brad, who I kept saying, Brad Winters, uh producer on Trek. He would give me a lot, and we, if you have someone who's on the other side of the booth really giving fun notes, it still is a very collaborative experience. And it's also, you're really fitting what the animation is. So, and it goes back and forth because they have, an initial first pass and then they hear the voice and back and forth. I mean, it's an incredible process. And I'd love to even learn more details about how they go back and forth. But I think for me, because I do have a real like sonic uh I really love working with the dialects. It's a little bit more relaxed. I don't have to be memorized, but I can play. And I did actually, as L'Rell, do a fair amount of redubbing of some of my lines because if the prosthetic got, in the way on the day. So I had been able to play with that in a lot of ways, actually, with my live action work as well. So yeah, it's an amazing, how things come together.
I'm glad you mentioned the prosthetics actually, because that leads into my next thought here, which was I know when Armin Shimmerman revised Quark for Lower Decks, he brought back his Ferengi teeth, popped them in his mouth. I'm curious if you did any of that for this character for Lower Decks.
I did not. I did not bring back the teeth. Yeah, we decided that she was going to have the best Klingon teeth around. She had gone for the
Really did.
orthodontist.
And unrelated to the Lower Decks, I just want to compliment you for a moment here, Mary, because you've really embraced the Star Trek community and have become a true mainstay within this fandom here. And I love that. I love that for you. And I love that us fans get to keep enjoying you for this many years after Discovery and your time on Disco. And I'm just curious to know, like, were you always a Trekkie at heart, or like, how did this happen?
Yeah, well, was I always a Trekkie at heart? I think I always was at heart, but I discovered it later. Like I've always been, I love sci-fi and fantasy. Those were the kind of stories I gravitated towards as a kid. I wasn't introduced to Trek actually until the new films, when they rebooted them, I went to see, because again, it was in the style, in the genre of like what I liked. I'm like, what is this? I went to see it with my dad and one of my best friends, like when it opened, and I was like, this world's amazing. This cat. And so then I went back and watched some of the original films. My dad was like, well, if you like these characters, here's some of them in the OG. And so I had like a good sense of liking Trek. And then once I was cast, that's when I did the full deep dive. I watched all the Klingon centric episodes and got really sucked into specifically Deep Space Nine. And just like really wanted to, like, I was having to skip, technically. I was like, no, next Klingon episode. And then at a certain point with that plot, I was like, no, I have to know the details of the Dominion War here. Like, I would say now, having watched so many different episodes, now multiple times in a lot of ways, I call myself a true fan at heart. And again, just being a part of the show and being at conventions and meeting fans and hearing their favorite episodes. Like I just feel so a part of the family, and I love that.
Yeah. DS9, excellent choice, by the way. That's my favorite too.
We go, oh yeah,
And
I didn't. Yep, good stuff.
And just to take another step back here for a moment, because I didn't have a chance to really chat with you when Disco is happening on your time on Disco, and just kind of want to wrap things up, I guess, with L'Rell's story a bit. And I'm curious if you had any thoughts on what happened to her. Because basically, after season two, we don't really see her again. So,
Yeah.
what do you think happened to L'Rell after that point? What would you have liked for her to have happened?
Yeah, I mean, I this question comes up often, and I really do have like a question within it as well of the larger theme of why was this female leader forgotten? We in the timeline, we don't know, but why is she never referenced in all these other shows? Well, we know as, outside of Trek canon that it's because she hadn't been created yet, but I think that poses an interesting question. And I think that, you know, something probably epically tragic given her
Yeah.
track record happened.
That's depressing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But or as has often happened with a lot of great leaders of the past, specifically women again, that they led incredible lives and ruled well, and then just history kind of forgot. It just is this amazing thing where suddenly it's no longer something that is talked about as much as some other leaders. So it could have been with a whimper or with a bang with her. But I hope I was speaking earlier in another interview of just that I hope that she was eventually reunited with Tanavik in some way. I mean, technically, it probably would have been a bad idea, but even if it was just at the end that she got to have that moment, because that in that episode where we do get to meet him, I just found it very moving. that whole journey of her discovering that he was still alive and that he was okay. And, that was a very, difficult choice that she had to make. And so I hope maybe at the end she had some peace there.
I hope so too. And just last thing, Mary, to wrap things up here. We've now seen you as a Klingon in live action. We've seen you as a Klingon in animation. But what is your ideal next Star Trek role? Are you going to be back in the makeup or maybe in a Starfleet uniform for a change of pace? What are you hoping for?
I love that. Yeah, it has been so awesome to be a Klingon. Like if you're gonna be an alien, I definitely feel like Klingons are a great way to go. I would be interested, in contrast, if I were still not to be a human, and given my new haircut, something Vulcan, I think would be
Ooh.
a very fun contrast. And I think I can have a very nice Vulcan quality, which I think again would just be a fun thing if folks know me, to go, oh, wait a minute, that Klingon's a Vulcan. That's the first thing that pops into my mind. But again, I've been so thrilled that I've been able to stay a part of this family and would be thrilled to be a human, any alien, any sort of thing in, yeah, whether it be animated or live action or whatever other media, a theatrical play.
All of the Star Trek opera.
Yeah, the Star
Uh,
Trek part. Yeah, I mean,
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, thank you for chatting, and yeah, let's keep nudging Paramount. Let's see Mary come back as Vulcan because that would be pretty cool. I think you'd nail that. And once again, thank you for talking with us, and I hope we can make it happen again sometime before the 31st century rolls around. So, thank you.
Excellent.
Klingon greeting to you.
Kabla!
Trek Untold, the Star Trek podcast that goes beyond the stars, is powered by the Rageworks Podcast Network and affiliated with Nerd News Today.